This video is going to feature guns and lasers. Now that I got your attention, I am Travis and this is how I do things, and in this video I'm going to show you how to frame a wall in your basement using a nail gun and a self-leveling laser. To start framing a room in my basement, I like to get out my laser and a Sharpie and mark where the bottom and top plates will land. The laser is nice because you can do all of that at the same time. I put a link to this laser down below, but if you don't have one or don't want to buy one, you could also lay out your walls using a very straight long board and a square. I just mark out the inside edge of the wall. If it helps you remember, you can put an X on the side the wall will go. I like to use a square in the corners just to make sure my walls are running perpendicular. I also like to mark out any openings for doors. During the process, pay attention to anything above your future walls. If you're concerned about clearance to anything and you don't have a laser, check with a plumb bob and make adjustments as necessary. Once I can see all of my walls, I measure the total length of the wall so I can figure out how many studs to order. If you're using 16-inch stud spacing, take the total wall length and multiply by 0.75. Then add a few studs for each intersection for drywall backing. Also add a few more studs for each door or window opening. Then take your final number and multiply by 1.15 to give you 15% extra for waste, bad material, or mistakes. Don't forget, you can return any unused materials. You also need longer studs for top plates and pressure-treated bottom plates. The top plate is the board that attaches to the ceiling joist, and the bottom plate or sole plate attaches to the floor. Since the bottom plates are in direct contact with concrete here in the basement, the pressure treating helps prevent them from rotting. The studs are the vertical pieces that connect the bottom and top plates. I like to use the longest bottom and top plates I can to keep the wall continuous. The length will more than likely be limited by what you can get down into your basement or fit in your car or truck. Check your local building code to ensure you're using the correct fasteners. In my area, we need to use 16D nails, and they should be galvanized if you're nailing into pressure-treated wood, which down in the basement we will be. I start by measuring my markings and cut my bottom and top plate. I have to frame around a support beam and some plumbing, so I'll have several top plates for one bottom plate. Then lay the top and bottom plate next to each other and mark out the stud locations. Put a mark at the end for the first stud, and then the next stud will start at 15 1/4 inches from the end. I put an X on the side of the line the stud will go. Now move your tape measure to the line you made and then just make a mark every 16 inches with an X ahead of the line. Keep marking out a stud every 16 inches until you get to the end. When you get to the end, mark out another stud right at the end. Now make sure you mark out a stud to attach any joining walls as well as backer boards to support drywall. I like to mark out a sideways stud for these situations. Marking both the top plate and the bottom plate at the same time not only makes it faster, it ensures you won't make any mistakes. If you're making a longer wall that requires more than one bottom plate, push the bottom and top plates together and continue marking out your studs every 16 inches. Remember, the goal is to be able to install 4-foot wide drywall panels and have the edges fall in the center of each stud. When framing around obstacles, I need to have studs every 16 inches for drywall, but also studs on the ends of the top plates to support them properly. Then I stack my top and bottom plate on top of each other to account for their thickness. And then I measure from the joist, or in this case, the fire blocking, down to the plates. You'll want to do this in a few spots so you can find the shortest distance. Then take that number and subtract 1/8 of an inch to ensure there's enough clearance to install the wall once it's assembled. If your joists are running parallel to the wall you're about to build, you may need to put some pieces of wood in between the joists so you have something to nail your wall to. In this case, I don't need to do that because I have a joist right above the wall. Now grab your studs and cut them to length. You can do this with a circular saw, but my preference is a miter saw out in my garage. The rest of my basement is finished, and I like to keep the dust down as much as possible. Once you have all your studs cut, lay out the wall on the floor so you can nail them together. This process is much more efficient than trying to nail the studs with the bottom and top plate already installed. However, if you don't have enough room to build your wall on the floor, you will have to build your walls by installing the top and bottom plate and toe nailing the studs to them. To build your wall, just align the studs with your marks and drive 2 nails into each stud. Be sure to wear safety glasses and hearing protection. Keep your hands clear of the area you're nailing. Sometimes nails will shoot out of the side of the studs. I like to do all the studs on one plate and then move to the other plate. Nail all the studs on just like you did before, except pay special attention to make sure the studs are perpendicular to the plate. If you have a stud with a little twist, you can nail one side and then pry on the other side until it lines up with your line. Then put in the second nail. Once your wall is built, you can lift the top edge of the wall into place. Hopefully your 1/8 inch left enough room for you to easily put your wall in place. If not, you may need to tap it in place with a hammer. Just be aware that this will slightly move the floor above temporarily, so don't do this if you have a rigid floor above, like tile, or you may damage the floor. I made a little bit of a mistake and I didn't account for this ductwork over here, so I wasn't able to lift my wall into place. Not too big of a deal though. All I need to do is take this big complicated wall and cut it right here into 2 walls so it's easier to maneuver. Once the wall is standing up, use your marks on the floor to get the wall into position. In the past, I've used a ramset to secure the baseboards of the concrete floor. However, that sort of causes the concrete to kind of crack around it, so I've started using a hammer drill and Tapcon screws. I use 2 3/4 inch Tapcon screws in between every other stud. The other nice thing about these is you can easily remove them if you need to move the wall for some reason. To use them, you just drill through the bottom plate and into the concrete using the included bit. Then just install the screw. If you're breaking screws off, you may need to clean the hole out or drill a little bit deeper. Once the bottom plate is secured, I use a long level to make sure my wall is plumb, and then I nail the top plate to the joists. When I tried to install the second sectional wall, I ended up running into more problems. I was having issues getting around the dryer vent duct, so I had to remove that to get the wall into place. I'm actually kind of glad I had to remove it because it was way more clogged than I thought it would be, so this gave me a chance to clean it out. Now that this sectional wall is in place, I made sure it lined up with the other sectional wall, and then I used the Tapcon screws to secure the bottom plate and the 16D nails to secure the top plate. Ordinarily, I would say easy peasy lemon squeezy, but this one was not easy peasy lemon squeezy. But I did get it done. It was very complicated. Any wall you're going to do is going to be much simpler than this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please click one of these other awesome videos and watch them up here. But before you do that, hit like and subscribe and click the little notification bell so you don't miss my next video, where I'm going to be showing you how to build a soffit. See you guys.